This is TWiT.
I'm sorry, I'm a little perky today. You obviously still jet lagged from your long journey.
I've been here for a week.
Okay.
So
No excuse.
no, I'm not sure how to approach me having good news.
Oh
because
no,
it
what do we
usually
do?
Is not
Very distressed.
It's a little, it's a weird feeling. Oh, jeez. Right. Sorry. I just clicked on a link and it opened in the proper browser, which is not the one I want. Anyway, so Microsoft has a tech community blog that's, typically aimed at IT pros, et cetera. It's interesting how often they reveal information through this blog. It's kind of innocuous, whatever. So sometimes you'll see a headline, you think, well, that's no big deal, whatever. It's like we've updated the install media for Windows 11 and also for Server 2025. Big deal. Except this is a big deal. So what they have decided to do finally, and I've always kind of wondered about this, is ensure that the install media has all of the inbox apps updated fully. Right? Now that sounds obvious. But if you think about the typical path that someone would follow installing Windows, especially if they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They would get through setup, get to the desktop, and then you have 3 or 4 avenues for updates at that point, right? You want to go to Windows Update and install those updates. You want to go to the Microsoft Store and install the app updates. Mm-hmm. You should go to Winget, the Windows Package Manager command line, and fully update things because there are things that are not updated through those things immediately, but will be updated through Winget. And depending on the apps you're using, they might have their own updaters like Microsoft Edge. So part of the problem with the updating process with Windows is that Microsoft updates their install media, the back end, the ISO essentially that they're using, however you obtain it, right? Through the Microsoft media creation tool. If you just download the ISO, if you're in IT, you have other places you can go to get ISOs for Windows. It's not clear to me. I tried to find this out. I know they update those ISOs essentially from time to time. Obviously, when there's a version upgrade, they do it then. But they update it midstream sometimes, but not, maybe twice a year, something like that. Mm-hmm. So what they're going to do now is, and they started this with the June 2025 and Windows 11 version 24H2, they're going to update it every single month. And what that means is that 36 built-in apps in Windows 11, all the famous ones, Notepad, Paint, Phone Link, Photos, Weather, et cetera, will all be up to date for that month. So you may still have a couple of app updates, but instead of that giant scroll of, that takes a really long time to get through, you can have this ISO or this install media that is completely up to date. Now, for end users, IT especially, that also means you have to keep your install media up to date, right? If you want the benefit of this. And so for most people, for individuals, if for some reason you needed this, you would get it at the time. You would then be up to date. You would use it. You wouldn't think about it. If you're like me and you're maybe a little more compulsive, you keep a copy of the ISO, you keep a copy of the USB media. I'm not aware of a way to slipstream that or automate it. So unfortunately, you're pretty much looking at a monthly download, and then in the case of the media creation tool, a monthly media creation. But this is actually good news for users. It's more secure. This is the primary point, but it's also a big chunk of that first hour, maybe even hour and a half of what I do. What I do when I install Windows. Right? It's not everything. You still have to go to Windows Update. You still are going to want to go to Winget. And actually, you still want to go to the store. But again, instead of what looks, feels like 100 app installs or app updates, you should have just a handful, depending on the
a little bit more streamlined, at least.
Yeah. So it's good. Like other than the overhead of you have to, as an individual, keep your stuff up to date.
Right.
I'd rather do it offline like that than wait while Windows does its thing. Because that's one of the weird things about Windows. If you run an app right away, depending on the app, it will either be completely out of date, or in the case of something like the Xbox app does this, it will say, hey, there's a newer version of the app. When you go get that first, because we're not going to run it until you do. So,
right.
That's on you. So,
I like VS Code and I think, what is it? The Azure Storage Manager are really good about popping up a bar that says, hey, there's a new version.
Yep.
Do you want to install now or when you're finished?
And full Visual Studio does this as well, which I really like, because one of the options is install on close.
Yeah, install on close I really appreciate. So I do get around to my installation, but you don't interrupt me.
Right. No, it's really good. Really good.
Yeah.
App updates, like these inbox apps are modern apps. They're small. They're usually really focused. I mean, it's not as mission critical, but you want them up to date for security vulnerability reasons, right? Like there are a lot of, Microsoft described this almost as like a 0-day protection of sorts.
Right.
Because these are vectors for attack. So.
Yeah, I mean, and to be clear, interrupt me if it's really that important, but most of the time it's just not that important.
I'd rather be interrupted than have it just do it. You ever turn on Windows and start doing something? It's like, oh, sorry, time to go.
The one thing that gets me is Android. Like my Android phone renders itself unusable until I finish a system update. It's like, hey, now I can't unlock the car, and the radio won't turn on, and like all of this stuff. It's like I have to complete a system update that it couldn't complete on its own for some reason.
This is one of the random areas where Windows is somehow much more sophisticated than these mobile platforms. They've gotten better for sure. Apple, because of the foundation at the time of Mac OS 10 and how they built iOS on top of that, literally I had replaced every single file on your system as part of those version upgrades. It took forever. And so they're better than that. But all platform makers, Apple, Google, Microsoft, are doing this thing where they've separated out parts of the system, kind of componentized it so that they can be updated individually, typically through the store or, however, it doesn't matter how they do it, but outside of the, whatever it might be, monthly cumulative update type system, whatever they have. They're all very similar in that regard, but Windows is actually they do too many updates. This is the dark side of this sword, if you will. They've gotten so good at it, they're like, oh, we can just do it all the time. And actually, that's kind of disruptive.
Yeah.
Hey, it's me, Leo Laporte. I hope you've enjoyed this little snippet from Windows Weekly. If you want to see more, want to catch the whole show, you can subscribe in your favorite podcast client or visit our website, twit.tv/WW. And of course, there's links right below me.